Greetings, I'm Sergeant Okocha, and today I'll be doing a class on identifying terrain features on a military map. This training task is 071-COM-1001. Foreign disclosure for this lesson is FD Level 1. This training project has been reviewed by the training developers in coordination with the G2, Fort Benning, Georgia, zip code 31905, Foreign Disclosure Officer. This training project can be used to instruct international military students from all approved countries without restrictions. The conditions are that you are a member of a squad or a team, and you've been asked to identify terrain elements on a military map, and you've been given a 1 to 50,000 scale map. The standards are to identify 5 major, 3 minor, and 2 supplementary terrain features. Risk assessment overall is low. Be mindful of the wildlife in the area, insects that you may come across, and small debris on the ground. Also, to combat any heat casualties, also be aware of heat casualties. The proper mitigations for this are that I have reconned the area prior to the training. We all have our issued gear, such as gloves, iPro, ACH, Molly, IFAC, and our handy dandy camelback. I have inspected all the gear prior to this training. The environmental concerns. It is a duty and responsibility of all soldiers and DoD civilians to preserve and protect the environment. So, in order to use a map, one of the basic skills you need is to be able to identify terrain features. I will demonstrate this task at full speed, followed by a step-by-step explanation on how to. Afterwards, you will be evaluated on your ability to perform to standard. First things first, all the terrain features that I'm going to discuss are based off a landmass as a terrain feature called a ridge line, which is not to be mixed up with a ridge. A ridge line is like that of a mountain. It's a continuous high elevation with variations and surrounded on all sides by lower land. So, the first terrain feature is the hill. A hill is a high area surrounded on all sides by lower ground. It is identified on the map by concentric circles leading to a smaller circle in the very center. The smaller circle in the center will be the top of the hill. The next terrain feature is called a valley. Valleys are long stretches of lower areas surrounded at least on 3 sides by higher ground. They're surrounded on 2 sides significantly by higher grounds that's significantly higher, and usually have a water source going through them. In this case, there will probably be a river coming through here with water running downhill, of course. The next feature after the valley is the ridge, which is just a long stretch of high ground leading from the top of a hill or another higher elevation. A ridge defined on a map will be this region right here, going straight out, following the high elevation and downward slope. that, we have a saddle, which is just a low area between two high grounds, but not quite as significant as a valley. So this area right here will be a saddle because it's between two high grounds. There may be a third high point, but either way, it's not as well defined as a valley. The fifth major terrain form is called a depression. A depression is similar to a hill, except it's the opposite. The depression is the opposite of a hill. It is also shown on a map by concentric circles. However, in the center circle is the lowest point, with tick marks indicating the low ground being inside the circle. Those are the 5 major terrain features on a map. The next 3 I'm going to tell you about are the 3 minor terrain features. First of which is called the draw. For a draw, it's basically like a valley except going, A draw is basically a less defined valley which travels down slope between two either ridges or between 2 hills. A spur, however, is shown on a map like this. This region right here being the spur. The spur is just a short, continuous sloping line of higher ground that usually juts out from the side of a ridge. The spur is often formed by 2 roughly parallel streams that cut down a draw, of streams cutting draws down the side of a ridge, and it will slope down in 3 different directions. Of course, this part right here would be the draw, the center of these U-shaped contour lines. That would be the spur. And then the last minor is a cliff, in which case the elevation drops so significantly that the contour lines merge together, and it is further indicated by tick marks denoting the drop off in elevation. The next two are supplementary land terrain features, which are man-made. First of which being called a cut. And the second being a fill. So typically, if someone was engineering a path and they came across two hills or mountains or terrain features in their way, they would just bulldoze or build over their path that they need to make. In which case, here's your path. Tick marks will be drawn in, showing that the path is lower in elevation than the surrounding contour lines. However, out here, if the path is higher, it's called a fill. And the tick marks will be pointed outward to show the lowering of elevation from the path. All right. Now that I've gone over the terrain features, you're going to be evaluated on your ability to identify the 5 major, the 3 minor, and the 2 supplementary features. You will score either a go or no go on your performance measures. And if you do something incorrectly, then I'll show you what's done wrong and go over it with you again. All right, I will now give you 5 minutes to locate and identify terrain features on your maps. Make sure you find 5 major, 3 minor, and 2 supplementary. All right, now that that's done, we're going to overview the task, conditions, and standards once again. Again, the task is for you to identify 5 major, 3 minor, and 2 supplementary terrain features. The conditions are that you are a member of a squad or a team, and you've been given a 1 to 50,000 scale map. The standards are to identify, the task was to identify terrain features on a map, and the standard is to identify 5 major, 3 minor, and 2 supplementary. You've been evaluated on a go or no-go performance measure. And if you did it incorrectly, of course, I went over it with you again to show you what you did wrong. So for our AAR, what was supposed to occur? We were supposed to identify terrain features on the terrain map. Identify 5 major, 3 minor, and 2 supplementary. What did occur? All right, good job. Do we have any sustains? Fantastic. And any improves? I'll keep that in mind. Overall, I think our control measures were effective. We didn't have any heat casualties. No one was attacked by any wildlife, and we didn't have any insect bites. So the residual risk was still low. So now we're just going to make sure we put away our stuff and conduct a police call. And depending upon requirements met, soldiers will be deemed trained, proficient, or untrained.